Is the dream of home ownership feeling more like a nightmare for first-time homebuyers here in Canada? The reality is, it is becoming increasingly difficult to buy a home here in Canada, but in today's video, I'm going to be providing 3 different national programs that are bound to help first-time homebuyers, and one more specifically to Nova Scotia, where I live and work as a real estate agent. So stay tuned for the whole video. This is going to give you an edge up when you're buying your first home. All right, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, my name is Greg Pierce. I am a local real estate agent and investor here in the Halifax, Nova Scotia area on the east coast of Canada. And today I'm going to be covering 4 different programs that are going to help first-time homebuyers get a leg up on the process of buying their first home. It is no surprise that this process has become increasingly difficult with high interest rate, high home prices, and tons of competition with the increase in population that we're seeing. Now, is it even feasible for the average first-time homebuyer to purchase a home anymore? Yes, it is. Is it more challenging? 100%. There's no surprise that that is the case. So these 4 programs are hopefully going to give you an edge when you go to buy your first property. Now, not all of these programs are created equal, and I will be sharing my opinion on the pros and cons of all of these programs, and are they too good to be true in some circumstances. There are some combinations you can use with these programs as well, so it doesn't need to just be pick one option. You can combine some of these. So stay tuned for all that information, and hopefully this is going to help you buy your first property this year. All right, so let's dive right into this with program number 1, and that is the Homebuyers Plan, or commonly referred to as the HBP. And essentially, this just allows you to pull out all of your RRSP contributions with a maximum of up to $60,000 per person, so $120,000 per couple, and that is up from $35,000 a person or $70,000 as a couple just this year. So that is a phenomenal increase. The issue I have with this is how many first-time homebuyers have this much money sitting in RRSPs, and the average person that I know doesn't typically have that much money sitting in RRSPs. However, if you are in this situation, it is a phenomenal program. Essentially, you get to pull this money out to use as a down payment for your first home, and you can also build using this as well. You just need to move into the property within a year of the purchase agreement. And the benefit of this is that you do have to repay back into the RRSPs over a 15-year period. So you need to do 1/15 of the amount you took out over a 15-year period. The bonus of this is that you actually don't need to start the repayment process until 5 years after your purchase. So it allows you to get your feet underneath of you a little bit without having to pay right back into that as soon as possible. Now, typically, as you might know, when you pull out money out of an RRSP, you are taxed at that moment. This is tax-free when you pull this money out. So this is a huge asset. Now, there definitely are some benefits to this program. Now, if you're pulling out $60,000 each for a combination of $120,000, that allows you to do quite a bit with that money. Here in Halifax, at least, that can give you a really healthy down payment, or if you're looking to build, you can put down a good chunk of money. So not a bad option for option number 1. It's not my favorite program just because the RRSPs aren't that common anymore. Having said that, I do think it has some benefits associated with it and the amount of money that you can pull out. I just don't know how many people are actually going to qualify for this program in the sense that they have any significant amount of money that would really help them buy a home in their RRSPs currently. Now, this next program I'm a big fan of. It's called the First Home Savings Account, or commonly referred to as the FHSA. This is a newer program, and there are a lot of benefits to it, but also some drawbacks. As I promised, I am going to be covering that as well. So $8,000 max contribution per year, up to a maximum of $40,000. Now, this is a much smaller amount than the previous home buyers plan that we just discussed, where you can put down as much as $60,000. This one has its limitations because it's not very beneficial for someone looking to buy a home now. $8,000 a year, that's gonna take 5 years to get up to the maximum $40,000. And even then, that's not a ton of money. And in 5 years' time, that down payment isn't going to buy you as much home as it does now. However, the beauty of this program is it kind of gives you 2 benefits. So number 1 is that this is tax deductible, meaning if you put in $8,000 a year, that comes off of your income tax. So it does give you that break similar to RRSP contributions. And then any gains or income generated from this program, similar to a TFSA, you don't pay tax on that either. So when you pull this money out, that is tax-free as well. Now, another reason why I love this program is, let's say you start putting money into this program, but down the road you decide, I don't want to use this for a down payment. You have 15 years to transfer this to an RRSP or RRIF tax-free. So if you have this $40,000 sitting in your first home savings account, but you decide not to buy a home with this money, you can transfer that tax-free to an RRSP or RRIF, and that is a huge asset. This is a great way to grow money similar to a TFSA, tax-free, and then still reap the benefits if you decide to transfer that money later on. Now, as mentioned, I do love this program, but in conclusion, there are some drawbacks to this program. Yes, you get some great tax benefits, and I don't think it's a bad place to start putting your money, even if you're unsure if you're gonna use this program, because you can transfer it. However, the issue I have is that it's really a long-term plan. You need to be thinking 5 years down the road in order to accumulate that full $40,000. And in most markets, if you do $40,000 on a 5% down payment, that gives you up to an $800,000 home. However, there's additional closing costs when you buy a home. So it's not like you just need the $40,000 for a down payment and then you're good to go. You typically need an additional 2 to 3% for a closing cost here in the Nova Scotia area. So keep that in mind when you go through this process. Having said all of that, I do think it's a good place to start if you're thinking longer term. If you have money in RSPs already, the previous program is probably your better choice. Make sure you stay until the end because these next two programs are game changers. I absolutely love these, and the next one hasn't even come out yet. Also, if you're enjoying the video this far, please do me a huge favor, like this video, tap the subscribe button, and hit that notification icon so you can be informed anytime I release new content. It really helps out my channel and lets me know that I can keep putting out this content to help inform people about the real estate market, not only in Halifax and Nova Scotia, but across the country. All right, so as mentioned, this next program hasn't even been released yet at the time of this recording, and that is a 30-year amortization on new construction for first-time home buyers. So what does this mean? What is amortization? In Canada here, a typical residential amortization period is 25 years, meaning if you bought a $500,000 home, you'll pay that down to zero after 25 years. They're extending that to 30 years for new construction. So this gives people an opportunity to extend their amortization, which lowers their monthly mortgage payments to make things more affordable. Now, why limited to just new construction? I think they're trying to help new developers turn over properties faster so that it spurs more development in total, again, to help with our housing supply since we are in a crisis. But the caveat to this is that extending your amortization may seem great. It may seem like, ooh, lower monthly mortgage payments, who wouldn't want that? The issue with that is that means you're gonna be paying a lot more interest over that time. You're also gonna be paying down a lot less equity over time, meaning if you decide to resell in 5 years' time, you're not gonna get that same return or profit as you would if you just stuck with a 25-year amortization. So if you need this and you wouldn't qualify otherwise, then this is a great program. However, if you can buy new construction and do a 25-year amortization, do that. It's not beneficial to extend your amortization as it is going to cost you more in the long run. Now, a really important additional point to this, and it comes from the definition of what a first-time home buyer is. For all of these past three programs that I just mentioned, you need to be a first-time home buyer, meaning you've never purchased a home before, or you haven't purchased a home in the last 4 years. So it kind of starts fresh. So if you've purchased a home, you sold it, and then you were renting for the last 4, 5, 6 years, or you moved in with your parents, or whatever your situation might be, you now re-qualify as a first-time home buyer for these previous three programs that I just discussed. So that's a huge bonus. And there are a lot of cases where people have gone through that. Maybe they sold their home, thought it was a really great time to sell, and then before you knew it, the home prices shot up and now they don't want to buy a home. This is a great opportunity to re-enter into the market. If you technically aren't a first-time home buyer, you are being categorized as such under these rules. Now, back to the 30-year amortization, there is one important point, is that this needs to be an insured mortgage. So it needs to be a down payment of less than 20% in order to qualify for this program. So if you're buying new construction and you want to put 25, 30, 40% down, you can't do that under this program. You can still get your 25-year amortization, and chances are you probably don't need the 30-year amortization if you have that much money for a down payment, but that is an important point to consider when you're looking at this program. So how do I feel about this program? Well, I think it's missing the mark from the government because it limits people to new construction, and typically first-time homebuyers that are struggling to enter into the market aren't really even looking at new construction. So yes, it helps some people, but I don't think it helps the people that need the most help, which I think should be the point of implementing these programs, especially when it's coming from the government. All right, this next program is specific to Nova Scotia. However, if you aren't looking in Nova Scotia, make sure you check with your respective province or municipality, as there are a number of these types of programs out there available for first-time homebuyers. This program is my absolute favorite. I've had plenty of successful clients use this to buy their first property, and it is the Nova Scotia Down Payment Assistance Program, or NSDPAP for short. And I can't thank the government for doing this enough. I think it's a phenomenal incentive. Essentially, this is an interest-free loan repayable over 10 years to give you a 5% down payment, which is the minimum required, up to a $570,000 maximum purchase price here in the Halifax regional municipality. The purchase price maxes are a little bit lower in some of the outskirt areas. However, I think it's a phenomenal program, and obviously that reflects the price points of average homes in those areas. Now, in order to qualify for this program, you do need a credit score of 650 or more. You need to be a Canadian citizen or permanent resident. You need to have lived in Nova Scotia for the past 12 months. And you also need to have a household income of $145,000 or less, which I think is a really healthy budget. That's a couple making, $70,000 each that qualify for this program. You also need to be pre-approved by a mortgage lender for an insured mortgage. Since you're getting a 5% down payment, that will be an insured mortgage. So make sure you have that process started already. Now, how this one works is you can't actually go and pre-qualify. You can't ask the government if you meet all the criteria. You need to actually get an accepted offer on a property. So let's say you buy 123 Main Street and you get an accepted offer. You then take that application and accepted offer to the Nova Scotia Down Payment Assistance Program, and then they will either approve you or not, and make sure that you've already got a pre-approval from a lender, because they are going to want to see that. The process can take up to about 2 weeks, although I've seen it turn over as little as 4 or 5 business days. So make sure to put that into your conditions to give you enough time to qualify for this property. So those were 4 great programs. I hope this was helpful for you. If you want to reach out, make sure to click on the Calendly link below. I'm happy to have a one-on-one call with you. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one.